Well, hello. Here we are in the kitchen and we're looking today with Good Friday and Easter in view to bake some hot cross buns, which are so associated with the Easter story. Have to confess, this is my first time making these, so we're just going to see how it goes. Apparently, the tradition goes back to a 14th century monk from St Albans who baked some buns and gave them away to the poor outside the monastery walls. Obviously, they must have become associated with being a penny or so, because you may remember the rhyme, hot cross buns, 1 a penny, 2 a penny, hot cross buns. If you don't have daughters, give them to your sons, 1 a penny, 2 a penny, hot cross buns. You can see the association with Good Friday in particular when Christians have eaten hot cross buns, because of course you've got this cross on the front of the hot cross buns. So let's get started. And here's some dough that was prepared earlier on. What has gone into the dough that's already prepared there are a number of different items. We have sugar and butter, strong flour, milk, and importantly yeast, which enables the bun to rise. And of course a particular allusion to the Easter story, because of course what happens is Jesus dies on Good Friday but rises again on Easter Day. Also in the dough you'll find these spices: cinnamon, mixed spice, nutmeg, and they could be associated in the Christian story with Jesus' body being embalmed according to the Jewish tradition, and how it was that the women went to the tomb to embalm his body, only to find on Easter Day that he had risen again. And you've also got this dried fruit in the hot cross buns as well. And the dried fruit reminds us of the fruit of Jesus' passion and death and resurrection, which is new life, a new life that he offers us, sharing with him, and the fruit of that life in love, joy and peace. So you can begin to see just how a story is unfolding in a hot cross bun. So now we come to actually getting the dough out that we've already put together. So we put some flour down on the surface here, and we get the dough out, and we'll just knead this for a couple of minutes, what they call knocking it down, which means effectively knocking out the air from the dough. So what we have to do now is put this into small balls of dough and put on the baking tray. So just leave that over there, bring the trays over here, and make sure that we've got about, I don't know how many we'll get out of this, maybe 12, maybe more. It depends how generous I want to be with my buns. And once you've put it on there, you just press it down and flatten it so that when you come to put the cross on the top, there's room to do so. So there we are, now about evenly distributed, and we'll just leave those to settle for 20 to 30 minutes for the yeast to take its effect. Now just a simple glaze of sugar and water, which we mix together, put into a small pan, and then we're going to boil that for 5 minutes so that it's ready to glaze the buns. So you'll notice what I've put on these buns now that have yet to be baked, some crosses, and I'm about to put some flour paste on the top to make the cross. So here we go. I hope this works. I haven't done this before, but I'm going to squeeze some of the flour paste on the indentation that's just been made, and there we go. It looks like it may even work. And of course, one of the good things to remember about Good Friday is that despite our catastrophes and the calamities of our lives, which we see writ large in the way that Jesus' friends and those around him treated him, he comes back not to give us hell, but to love the hell out of us. So I'm comforted in the knowledge of that, even as I draw the sign of the cross on each of these buns here as a sign of the good news of God's enduring commitment to us. And there is something important, I think, about food on Good Friday. In many Christian traditions around the world, people have food after a funeral, after a death. And there's something about the comfort of food, which is an echo, I think, of the Christian story of the death of Jesus, that is not the end, but that actually what we have in Easter Day is the wonderful comfort of a God who comes back to us and promises us that it's not just him that's raised from the dead, but he is, as St. Paul puts it, the first fruits, and that in and with him we are promised that we can share in a hope beyond despair and a life beyond death. So now what we need to do is put them in the oven. There we go. Let's remove that. The time has come to have a look and see what we've got. Here we are. Well, I have to say, I'm not entirely convinced that these look like shop-bought hot cross buns. They are, however, homemade hot cross buns, and I'm sure that they taste as good as they smell. And of course, what you can't get from viewing this is the smell, which is lovely. And finally, the last lot of them. So here we are, and I'm sure that they will taste absolutely fine. But what we need is a cup of tea, and before we finish, we also just need to add a little bit of glaze. This is not easy, actually. This is not a shop-bought hot cross bun, I'm sure you'll agree. In my defence, it is the first time I've made hot cross buns. So let's just cut it open, like so. It's cooked, that's the first test. A little bit of butter always helps. A little bit of butter on your hot cross bun. And a nice cup of tea. And let's see how that tastes. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. A very happy Easter to you.